Mom? I turned from the front row seat I had just found. Emma stood beside me in her graduation gown, twisting the tassel between her fingers. "Can we talk for a second?" she asked. "Of course, sweetheart." She glanced toward the entrance of the auditorium. Daniel's parents just arrived. "That's nice," I said. "I was hoping to meet them properly today." She swallowed hard. "Mom, would you mind sitting a little farther back?" I blinked. "Farther back?" "Just for the ceremony." "I don't understand." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Daniel's parents are very traditional. They're used to a different kind of crowd." I looked down at my navy dress. It was old, but carefully pressed. "And?" She took my hand, then quickly let it go. "I just don't want anything awkward today." "Awkward because of me?" "No, Mom, not like that." She glanced at my hands. I knew what she saw. The wrinkles, the faded scars, the hands of a woman who had spent a lifetime working. "Daniel's mother notices everything," she said softly. "I don't want her making assumptions." For a moment, the noise of the auditorium disappeared. "So you'd rather I not sit in the front row?" "Just today," she whispered. "Please." I forced a smile. "I understand." Relief flooded her face. "Thank you, Mom. I knew you'd understand." She kissed my cheek and hurried away before I could say anything else. I remained standing beside the seat I had dreamed about for years. Have you ever given everything you had to someone you loved, only to realize they were embarrassed by the life that gave them their future? If that question touches your heart, take a moment to like this video. Subscribe if stories about family, sacrifice, and second chances mean something to you. And tell me in the comments, what would you have done if you were in my place? My name is Evelyn Carter. I'm 70 years old. I've been a widow for 38 years, and I've lived alone in the same modest little house for longer than some marriages last. When I woke up that morning, I thought I was going to experience the proudest moment of my life. I never imagined it would begin with the deepest heartbreak. An usher approached me. "Ma'am, are you taking this seat?" I looked at the front row one last time. "No," I said, "I'll sit in the back." He nodded and led another couple to the empty seats. I walked slowly up the aisle. "Excuse me, sorry, can I get through?" By the time I reached the last row, my chest felt tight. I sat down beside a woman I didn't know. "Beautiful ceremony," she said. "Yes," I answered. "Your granddaughter graduating?" I managed a small laugh. "My daughter, you must be proud." I stared at the stage, more than she'll ever know. The woman smiled kindly and turned back toward the podium. I placed the gift box on my lap. It was wrapped in pale blue paper I had chosen myself. Inside was something I had spent months preparing for Emma. Not expensive, not flashy, but it carried a lifetime of memories. I traced the edge of the ribbon with my thumb. "Mom." I looked up. Emma was standing near the stage entrance. She gave me a quick wave, then glanced toward the front row. Daniel's parents had arrived. His mother wore pearls. His father wore a suit that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Emma straightened her shoulders and walked toward them. I watched Daniel's mother smile at her. Then I watched Emma sit beside them. In the front row, in the seat that had been mine, the woman beside me leaned over. "Your daughter looks nervous. She's always wanted everything to be perfect," I said. "That means she gets it from you." I almost laughed. If only she knew. The announcer stepped to the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the commencement ceremony." Applause filled the room. I clapped too. Because that's what mothers do, even when their hearts are breaking. As the graduates began filing in, I looked down at the gift box again. I had wrapped it at my kitchen table 3 nights earlier. I had imagined handing it to Emma after the ceremony while we stood together for photographs. I had imagined her saying, "Mom, You should be in the front." Instead, I was sitting in the back, trying not to cry. The applause grew louder. Emma entered the auditorium. Everyone stood. I stood too. But as I watched my daughter walk toward the stage, a question settled heavily in my chest. Should I stay and pretend nothing happened? Or should I quietly walk away before anyone noticed I was gone? I prefer this response. The moment I stepped out of that graduation hall, memories I had spent decades quietly carrying came rushing back. People say time softens grief. I don't know if that's true. I think it simply teaches you how to carry it without letting everyone else see how heavy it still is. Nearly 40 years ago, I stood in a cemetery on a cold October afternoon, holding the tiny hand of my 4-year-old daughter. Emma looked up at me with those wide brown eyes and tugged gently on my coat. "Mom? Yes, sweetheart? Why is everyone crying?" I swallowed the lump in my throat. "They're saying goodbye to Daddy," she frowned. "But Daddy said we'd go to the pumpkin patch." "I know. When is he coming back?" I knelt in front of her, brushing a curl away from her forehead. "Oh, Emma," she smiled so innocently. "Maybe after God fixes him?" I couldn't answer. Not because I didn't want to, because if I opened my mouth I knew I'd fall apart. My sister Laura wrapped an arm around my shoulders. "Evelyn," she whispered, "you don't have to be strong every second." "I do." "No, you don't." "I do," I repeated. "Because she's watching." Emma slipped her tiny hand into mine. "Mom? Yeah, can Daddy hear us?" "I think he can." She looked toward the fresh grave. "I love you, Daddy." Every person standing around us started crying again. I didn't. Not then. I waited until everyone had gone home. The cemetery had become almost silent. Only the wind moved through the rows of headstones. I walked back alone. Emma had fallen asleep in Laura's car. I stood beside my husband's grave, staring at the flowers that barely covered the fresh earth. "I don't know how to do this," I whispered. "I don't know how to be both mother and father." My voice cracked. "But I promise you something." I placed my wedding ring against the headstone for just a second before slipping it back onto my finger. "Our little girl will never feel abandoned. I'll make sure she laughs. I'll make sure she learns. I'll make sure she dreams. And one day," I smiled through my tears, "she'll become everything we hoped she would be. I don't care what it costs me. I'll find a way." That promise became the center of my life. The very next week, I started looking for another job. The manager at the elementary school cafeteria glanced at my application. "You've never worked in food service?" "No." "You willing to learn?" "I'll learn anything." "When can you start?" "Tomorrow," he smiled. I like that answer. During the day, I served mashed potatoes, soup, and milk cartons to children who were about Emma's age. Every afternoon, I picked her up from preschool. She'd run toward me with open arms. "Mommy, there's my favorite girl." "Guess what?" "What?" I painted a dinosaur. "A purple dinosaur?" Her eyes grew wide. "How did you know?" I laughed. "Because only my Emma would make dinosaurs purple." She giggled the entire drive home. After dinner, Laura often watched Emma while I worked downtown cleaning office buildings. One evening, Emma hugged my leg before I left. "Do you have to go again?" "I do, sweetheart. Why?" "So we can keep our little house." She thought about that. "I'll help. You already do." "How?" "You make this house happy." She smiled proudly. "I can do that." Later, after my cleaning shift ended, I'd sit at the kitchen table with a borrowed sewing machine. Neighbors brought me dresses that needed hemming, school uniforms with missing buttons, curtains that needed shortening. One night, my neighbor, Mrs. Jenkins, knocked on my door carrying 3 dresses. "You still taking sewing jobs?" "I am." "You look exhausted." "I've been more tired." She looked around the kitchen. "Evelyn, When was the last time you bought something for yourself? I laughed softly. I honestly can't remember. You should. I will. When? I smiled. When Emma graduates from college. Mrs. Jenkins chuckled. That's a long time to wait. It'll be worth it. Years passed faster than I expected. Emma grew into a curious little girl who always carried a library book under one arm. At dinner, she would ask endless questions. Mom? Yes? Who invented airplanes? I don't know. We should find out. The next night, Mom? Yes? Why do stars shine? I don't know that either. She grinned. We'll learn together. And we did. When she reached middle school, her teachers couldn't stop praising her. During one parent conference, Mrs. Reynolds smiled at me. Mrs. Carter, your daughter has something special. I frowned. What do you mean? She doesn't just memorize answers. She wants to understand everything. Emma blushed. I'm just curious. Mrs. Reynolds laughed. Stay curious. Walking home, Emma squeezed my hand. Mom? Yes? I'm going to be the first person in our family to graduate from college. I smiled. I've never doubted that. What if it's expensive? We'll figure it out. What if it's really expensive? I stopped walking and gently cupped her face. Listen to me. Okay, you dream as big as you want. And you leave the worrying to me. She wrapped her arms around my waist. I love you, Mom. I love you more than every star you keep asking questions about. She laughed. At that moment, I truly believed that no matter how difficult life became, as long as we kept holding each other's hands, nothing could ever come between us. By the time Emma started high school, our little house felt different. Not because the walls had changed, because the dreams inside them had grown bigger. The first morning of her freshman year, she came running downstairs wearing a backpack that looked almost bigger than she was. Mom, I'm here. Does this look okay? I smiled. You've asked me that 5 times. And? You look beautiful. She spun around. Not too much? You look exactly like a girl who's ready to chase her future. She hugged me tightly. I'm nervous. Good, she pulled back. Good? It means this matters to you. She laughed. You always know what to say. No, I said, kissing her forehead. I just know you. That afternoon, she burst through the front door before I even had time to take my apron off. Mom. I laughed. I can tell it was a good day. It was amazing. Tell me everything. My biology teacher said I asked great questions. I believe it. And my English teacher wants me to join the debate team. That's wonderful. And, she paused dramatically, the guidance counselor says if I keep my grades up, I could earn scholarships. I felt my heart skip. Scholarships? She nodded excitedly. For college, I wrapped my arms around her. I knew you could. She smiled. We're really going to do this, aren't we? We've always been going to do this. Over the next few years, Emma seemed to bloom right before my eyes. Every report card brought more good news. Every teacher had something kind to say. During one parent conference, Mr. Harrison folded his hands across the desk. Mrs. Carter? Yes, your daughter is one of the brightest students I've taught. I smiled proudly. I've always known she was special. She works harder than most adults. Emma rolled her eyes playfully. Mom tells me hard work solves almost everything. I chuckled. I've probably said that once or twice. Mr. Harrison leaned forward. Universities are going to notice her. Walking back to the car, Emma couldn't stop smiling. Did you hear that? I heard every word. He thinks I can get into a really good college. I think so too. She squeezed my hand. We're getting closer. Yes, closer to the promise. I looked at her. You remember that? You've reminded me since I was little. I have. One day you'll be the first college graduate in our family. I laughed softly. I guess I did say that. You still believe it? More than ever. But dreams, I learned, often come with bills no one talks about. Application fees. testing fees, books, school trips, laptop requirements, transportation. Every time I crossed one expense off my list, another one quietly appeared. One evening, I sat at the kitchen table, studying a stack of envelopes. Emma walked in carrying 2 mugs of tea. "You look worried." "I'm just doing math." "You've been doing math for an hour." I smiled. "The numbers aren't cooperating." She sat beside me. "If college is too expensive, it isn't. You don't even know what I was going to say." "I do." She sighed. "I could work instead." "No, I could wait a few years." "No, I could." "Emma." She stopped talking. "Your job is to study. My job is to worry." She reached for my hand. "It shouldn't all be on you." "It never has been." That wasn't entirely true. A few weeks later, I opened my jewelry box. Inside lay the last necklace my husband had ever given me. I held it in my palm for a long time. "I hope you don't mind," I whispered. The jeweler examined it carefully. "It's beautiful." It was. "I can give you $800. I smiled sadly. He paid $29 for it. The jeweler looked surprised. It meant more than money. "It still does." "Are you sure?" I nodded. "My daughter has a future waiting." He quietly wrote the receipt. I walked out holding an envelope instead of a memory. A month later, my knees began hurting more than usual. Dr. Patel studied my x-rays. "Evelyn." "Yes, doctor?" "You shouldn't keep postponing this treatment." "I know. The pain is getting worse. I'll schedule it." "When?" I hesitated. "After Emma starts college." He removed his glasses. "That's almost 2 years away. I'll manage." "You've been saying that for years." I smiled politely. "And somehow, I always do." To earn a little more money, I picked up weekend cleaning shifts at a downtown law office. Some nights I didn't get home until nearly midnight. Mrs. Jenkins stopped me one Saturday morning. "Evelyn, morning. When do you sleep?" I laughed. "Whenever life gives me permission." "You're wearing yourself out. It's temporary." "You've been calling it temporary for 15 years. "I know." She hugged me unexpectedly. "I hope your daughter realizes how lucky she is." "So do I." Emma never asked for any of those sacrifices. In fact, she often tried to help, but life was beginning to introduce her to a different world. One afternoon, she climbed into the car wearing a huge smile. "Mom." "What happened?" "I got invited to Daniel's house." "Daniel? The boy I told you about? The one from chemistry?" "Yes, he's really nice." "So, when are you going?" "Saturday, have fun." When she came home that evening, she sounded amazed. "You should have seen their house." "Was it nice?" "It was enormous." She laughed. "They have a theater inside." "A theater? And a swimming pool." "That sounds fancy." It was. Over the following months, Daniel became a regular part of her stories. Daniel's parents own 3 companies. Daniel's family vacations in Europe every summer. Daniel's mom says networking is important. Little by little, the conversations changed. "Mom, maybe don't pick me up right at the front entrance." "Why?" "It's just, everyone else gets picked up in newer cars." I looked at the steering wheel of my old sedan. "Oh, it's not a big deal." "Of course." Then came another request. "Mom, could you drop me a block away from Daniel's neighborhood?" I forced a smile. "If that's easier." "It is." I kept telling myself the same thing every night. She's growing up. Teenagers worry about fitting in. This is normal. This isn't rejection. It's just part of becoming an adult. I believed those words because I needed to. I never allowed myself to wonder if, somewhere along the way, my little girl had started leaving more than just childhood behind. Graduation day arrived much sooner than I was ready for. I stood in front of the small mirror hanging in my bedroom, smoothing the wrinkles from the navy blue dress I had worn to church for nearly 8 years. I smiled at my reflection. "You'll do." The dress wasn't new. 3 nights earlier, I'd stayed up until almost midnight, letting out the seams, because age had changed my figure more than I cared to admit. I ran my fingers over the neat stitches. Not bad, Evelyn. My husband's framed photograph sat on the dresser. I picked it up. Can you believe it? I smiled. Our little girl made it. For a moment, I imagined what he would have said. I told you she would, I laughed softly. You were always the confident one. Before leaving the house, I picked up the small gift bag from the kitchen table. Inside was a velvet box, a handwritten letter, and something I'd protected for more than 35 years. Today's the day, I whispered. The drive to the university felt shorter than usual. Families filled every parking lot. Parents carried flowers, grandparents held balloons. Everyone wore the same expression. Pride. I parked my old sedan near the edge of the lot. As I stepped out, the woman beside me smiled. Graduation? Yes, your child? My daughter. She grinned. Congratulations, thank you. We walked toward the auditorium together. I bet you're excited. I've been waiting for this day most of my life. I know exactly how that feels. When we reached the entrance, volunteers handed out programs. A cheerful young man asked, "Family of a graduate?" "Yes. Front row seating is reserved for immediate family." He pointed toward the center section. "You're right there." I looked where he was pointing, the very front row. Exactly where I'd dreamed of sitting for years. "Thank you. Enjoy the ceremony." "I already am." I found my seat and carefully placed the gift bag on my lap. Students in blue graduation gowns laughed backstage, while families searched for familiar faces. Every few seconds, someone shouted another graduate's name. Cameras flashed. Children ran between rows of chairs. The room buzzed with excitement. Then, I saw Emma. She spotted me almost immediately. A smile crossed her face, but it disappeared before she reached me. "Mom?" "There she is." I stood to hug her. "You look beautiful." "Thanks," she hugged me quickly before glancing over her shoulder. "Can we talk for a second?" "Of course." She lowered her voice. "Daniel's parents just arrived. I've been looking forward to meeting them." "I know." She hesitated. "They're different," I smiled. "So, you've said." "No, I mean," she looked down at my dress, then at my shoes, finally, at my hands. "Mom." "Yes? Would you mind sitting a little farther back?" For a second, I honestly thought I hadn't heard her correctly. "I'm sorry?" "They're very traditional." "I see. They're important people." I nodded slowly. "So am I." She closed her eyes for a moment. "That's not what I meant." "Then help me understand." She took a deep breath. "They've always pictured Daniel marrying someone from a certain kind of family. And I don't want them making assumptions. About you? About us." I looked around the auditorium. What assumptions could they possibly make? She spoke so quietly I almost missed it. "That we come from less." I looked down at the dress I'd carefully altered with my own hands, the sensible shoes I'd polished until they almost looked new. Then, my hands. The same hands that had packed school lunches, scrubbed office floors, mended torn uniforms, held her every time life frightened her. "They'll judge your appearance," she whispered. "They'll see your clothes. They'll notice your hands." I gently folded them together in my lap. "My hands?" She looked embarrassed. "I know how this sounds." "Do you?" "They just don't understand people like us." "People like us." She reached for my arm. "Mom, please, it's only for today. We'll celebrate together afterward." "I promise." I searched her face. She wasn't trying to hurt me. She was trying to protect the life she thought she was building. That realization somehow hurt even more. I smiled. It wasn't difficult. I'd spent years smiling through hard days. "Of course, sweetheart. You understand?" "I understand." "You aren't angry?" No, really? I'm proud of you. Tears filled her eyes. Thank you. She hugged me again. I'll come find you as soon as it's over. I'll be waiting. She hurried back toward the graduates. I watched her disappear into the sea of blue gowns. Slowly, I picked up my gift bag. The volunteer standing nearby noticed me. Ma'am? Yes? Is everything okay? I smiled politely. I think I need another seat. Oh, he pointed toward the back rows. There are several open seats back there. Thank you. Every step felt heavier than the one before. Nobody stopped me. Nobody noticed. I simply became another face, moving through the crowd. When I reached the last few rows, I turned around one final time. A family of 5 had already settled into the seats I had just left. The grandfather proudly unfolded his camera. The grandmother dabbed happy tears from her eyes. The little boy sitting between them waved excitedly toward the stage. I couldn't look away. For nearly 40 years, I had imagined this day. I had imagined sitting in that front row, clapping the loudest, crying without embarrassment, watching my little girl become the first college graduate in our family. Instead, I quietly lowered myself into a chair near the back of the auditorium. From there, Emma looked much farther away than she ever had before. And for the first time since I buried my husband, I found myself wondering whether love alone had been enough to keep us close. I sat in the last row, holding the little gift bag against my chest as if letting go of it might somehow make everything hurt even more. The ceremony hadn't started yet. Families laughed. Children waved at graduates. Every few minutes someone shouted another student's name from across the auditorium. I watched it all quietly. Then, an announcement echoed through the speakers. Good morning, everyone. Due to a temporary technical issue with our presentation system, the ceremony will begin in approximately 20 minutes. Thank you for your patience. A wave of chatter swept through the room. People stood to stretch. Some walked outside for fresh air. Others gathered for photographs. I looked toward the stage one last time. You don't need me in the front, I whispered to myself. You've already had your moment. I stood and slipped out the side door into the hallway. The silence outside felt kinder. As I reached the lobby, I noticed a familiar voice. Evelyn? I turned around. Linda? Mrs. Linda Brooks hurried toward me with open arms. Oh my goodness. She hugged me tightly. I can't believe it's really graduation day. I smiled. I've been dreaming about it for years. She stepped back and looked me over. You look beautiful. So do you. She laughed. Oh, stop. What are you doing here? My grandson is graduating. What a wonderful day. It is. Then she studied my face. Evelyn, what? You've been crying. I quickly wiped beneath one eye. Just happy tears. She tilted her head. You've never been a good liar. I laughed softly. I'm getting worse with age. She reached for my hand. Is Emma all right? She's wonderful. And you? I'm learning something today. Linda didn't ask another question. She had known me for more than 30 years. She understood silence almost as well as words. I'll get us some coffee. You don't have to. I know. She smiled. But I'm going anyway. As she walked toward the refreshment table, I glanced at my watch. I should get some air. I left the gift bag resting on the empty chair beside Linda. I'll be right back, I said. Don't disappear. I won't. Outside, the breeze felt cool against my face. I stood near the flower garden, trying to steady my breathing. Inside the lobby, Linda looked down at the gift bag. Oh, she smiled, a graduation present. She carefully lifted it from the chair. I'd better keep this safe. As she adjusted the bag, a large cream-colored envelope slipped halfway out. Written across the front were the words, for Emma. Linda smiled warmly. She'll treasure this. At that exact moment, Emma hurried into the lobby. She looked anxious. "Mrs. Brooks." Linda turned. "There you are. Have you seen Mom?" She stepped outside. Emma sighed with relief. "I thought she'd left." Linda frowned. "Why would she leave?" Emma looked away. We had a misunderstanding." Linda noticed the envelope. "Oh, I almost forgot. Your mother asked me to watch her gift." She held out the bag. "And here's your letter." Emma smiled faintly. "She already wrote me one?" "I imagine it's a congratulations letter." Emma carefully opened the envelope. The first line made her stop breathing. "My dearest Emma, if you're reading this, it means you've reached the day your father and I dreamed about before you were old enough to understand what dreams cost." Emma whispered, "Dad." She continued reading. "You once asked me why I never bought myself pretty jewelry anymore. The truth is, I sold the last necklace your father ever gave me so your college application fees could be paid before the deadline." Emma's hands began trembling. No. A folded receipt slipped into her lap. Jewelry purchase $800. The date was almost 10 years old. Another page followed. "You never knew why I kept postponing my knee treatments. Every appointment I delayed became another semester you never had to worry about." Attached was a stack of medical appointment cards. Each one carried the same handwritten note. Rescheduled. Emma covered her mouth. "Oh, Mom." Another photograph fell from the envelope. She picked it up. It showed me wearing my cafeteria uniform, smiling beside enormous trays of food. Written on the back were my own words. "Morning job." Still enough energy to cheer at Emma's spelling bee tonight. Another picture. Me standing beside a vacuum cart inside an office building. Night shift. Emma never knew I cleaned this building until midnight. Another. Me sitting behind my old sewing machine. Finished 3 dresses tonight. One step closer to college. Emma's tears landed on the photographs. Linda sat beside her. "What is it?" Emma couldn't answer. She kept reading. "Every time you won another award, someone congratulated me for raising such a brilliant daughter. They never saw the nights I cried after you fell asleep because I wasn't sure how I'd pay the next bill. And that's all right. Children should never carry their parents' worries." Another envelope slipped free. Inside were dozens of faded receipts, school supplies, band uniforms, science camp, SAT registration, dorm deposit, college textbooks. Every receipt had one sentence written across the back, worth every penny. Emma whispered, "I never knew." Linda quietly placed an arm around her shoulders. "You weren't supposed to." Emma unfolded the final page. The handwriting became less steady. "There's one promise I never told you about." Taped beneath the page was an old hospital bracelet. Emma stared at the faded plastic band. "Patient, Michael Carter, date, October 14, room 312, her father's name." She looked back at the letter. "The night your father died, I stood beside his hospital bed after everyone else had gone home. Then, a few days later, beside his grave, I made him a promise. I told him our little girl would never feel fatherless. No matter how many jobs I worked, no matter how many dreams I quietly buried, no matter how tired I became, I would spend the rest of my life making sure yours could grow." Emma couldn't hold back her tears any longer. The pages slipped from her hands onto the floor. For the first time in her life, she wasn't seeing me simply as her mother. She was seeing the young widow, the exhausted worker, the lonely woman, who had quietly carried an entire lifetime of sacrifices without ever asking for applause. And suddenly, finding me became far more important than finishing her graduation ceremony. The applause around the auditorium faded into the background. By then, I was already walking across the parking lot with my gift bag missing from my hands. For the first time in nearly 40 years, I had nothing left to carry except my own thoughts. Inside the auditorium, Emma remained frozen. She stared at the hospital bracelet lying in her palm, as though it belonged to a stranger, instead of the father she barely remembered. Daniel hurried over. "Emma?" She didn't answer. "Hey," he touched her shoulder gently. "What's wrong?" She looked at him with tear-filled eyes. "I don't know who my mother really is," he frowned. "What do you mean?" She handed him the letter without saying a word. Daniel read silently. His expression changed with every page. When he finished, he whispered, She never told you any of this?" Emma slowly shook her head. "No, Mrs. Linda Brooks sighed. Because she never wanted credit." Daniel looked at Linda. "You knew?" "I knew pieces. You never said anything?" Linda smiled sadly. "Evelyn would have been upset if I had." Daniel looked back at the photographs. "This is unbelievable." Linda folded her hands. "No, it's Evelyn. She always believed love should be felt, not advertised." Emma wiped her eyes. "I asked her to move." Linda looked at her gently. "I know. I actually asked my own mother to leave the front row." No one spoke. The silence was heavier than any lecture could have been. Just then, a familiar voice interrupted. Emma, Mr. Harrison, her former high school English teacher, approached with a proud smile. "There you are." He noticed her tears. "Oh, is everything all right?" Emma forced herself to speak. "Mr. Harrison, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "My mom," he smiled immediately. "Evelyn?" Emma nodded. "What was she like back then?" Mr. Harrison laughed softly. "Back then, she was exactly who she still is." Daniel looked curious. "You knew her well?" "I saw her more than most parents." Emma frowned. "What do you mean?" "Every parent conference, every fundraiser, every debate competition, every science fair." He smiled. Sometimes she'd arrive wearing her cafeteria uniform. Emma looked surprised. "I thought she always came straight from home." Mr. Harrison gently shook his head. "No. Many evenings she came directly from work." He looked toward the photographs still scattered across the chair. "I remember one winter. A snowstorm hit the night before your scholarship interview." Emma listened silently. Most families stayed home. But not your mother. She walked almost 2 miles because her car wouldn't start. Daniel looked stunned. "Seriously?" Mr. Harrison nodded. "She showed up soaked from the snow. I offered to reschedule. You know what she told me?" Emma whispered, "What?" "My daughter has waited too long for this opportunity." His voice softened. "We'll both dry off later." Emma covered her face. "Oh." "Mom," another voice joined them. "I hope I'm not interrupting." Everyone turned. A woman wearing a university staff badge smiled politely. "I'm Professor Wilson. I taught Emma's freshman writing seminar." Emma quickly wiped her eyes. "Hello," Professor Wilson looked toward Linda. "I couldn't help overhearing." She smiled. "Your mother visited my office once." Emma blinked. "She did?" "She wanted to make sure you never found out she'd asked about emergency financial assistance." "I thought that scholarship came automatically." Professor Wilson shook her head. "No, your mother spent weeks filling out paperwork," she said. The professor smiled. "If my daughter ever asks, please tell her she earned every dollar herself." Daniel lowered his eyes. "I had no idea." Neither did Emma. At that moment, Daniel's parents approached. His mother, Patricia, smiled politely. "Emma, dear." Then she noticed everyone's expressions. "Is something wrong?" Daniel silently handed her the letter. She read it slowly. His father, Richard, stood beside her. Neither of them spoke until the final page. Richard finally cleared his throat. "I owe your mother an apology." Emma looked up. "You've barely met her," he nodded. "Exactly, I judged her before I knew anything about her." Patricia folded the letter carefully. "I thought elegance came from expensive clothes." She looked ashamed. "I forgot it can also come from sacrifice." Linda smiled gently. Evelyn has more grace than most people I've ever met. Mr. Harrison chuckled. She's the strongest woman I've known. Professor Wilson agreed. And one of the wisest. Emma whispered, I thought I was protecting my future. Richard answered quietly, No, you were hiding your past. Those words struck harder than anything else she'd heard that day. She suddenly remembered every small moment she'd ignored. Mom, park around the corner. Mom, don't wait by the entrance. Mom, I'll introduce you another time. None of those moments had seemed cruel then. Now they felt unbearable. Daniel reached for her hand. We need to find her. Emma nodded immediately. She said she'd wait. Linda looked toward the parking lot. Evelyn keeps every promise. Emma hurried toward the auditorium doors. She searched every hallway. Mom? No answer. She checked the lobby. Nothing. She ran outside. Rows of cars filled the parking lot. Families hugged. Graduates laughed. Cameras flashed. But the old blue sedan was gone. Emma stopped running. No, Daniel caught up beside her. Maybe she just moved the car. Emma slowly shook her head. No, I know my mother. When she believes she's no longer wanted, she quietly walks away. For the first time in her life, Emma understood that the deepest wound she had given me had nothing to do with old clothes, or rough hands, or a seat in the front row. It came from making the woman who had spent her entire life standing beside her feel as though she no longer belonged there at all. By the time I reached home, the afternoon sun had begun to sink behind the maple tree in my front yard. I turned off the engine but didn't move. The silence inside the car felt strangely comforting. No applause, no speeches, no cameras, just me. I rested both hands on the steering wheel and whispered, Well, Michael. A small smile found its way to my face. Our little girl graduated. A tear slipped down my cheek. We kept our promise. I wiped my face before stepping out. The old porch creaked beneath my feet, just as it always had. For years, that sound had welcomed Emma home after school. Today, it welcomed only me. Inside the house, I locked the door and leaned against it for a long moment. The quiet no longer felt lonely. It felt final. I walked into the living room and noticed Emma's childhood photograph still sitting on the bookshelf. She couldn't have been more than 6. Her front tooth was missing, and she was holding a library book almost as big as her little body. I picked up the frame. You were so proud because you'd read your first chapter book. I laughed softly. You insisted on reading every page out loud to me. My smile slowly faded. I'd listen all over again if I could. I carried the photograph into my bedroom. The old cedar chest sat at the foot of my bed. I hadn't opened it in years. As I lifted the heavy lid, the familiar scent of cedar and old memories filled the room. Everything inside had been waiting patiently, just like me. I reached for the first photo album. The cover had begun to crack with age. I opened it carefully. There we were. Emma covered in birthday cake. Emma riding her first bicycle. Emma on her first day of kindergarten. Each picture seemed to whisper the same question. Where did the years go? I smiled through my tears. You were always running ahead, and I was always trying to keep up. Beneath the albums rested a small velvet box. I opened it slowly. Inside lay my wedding ring. I had stopped wearing it years earlier after arthritis made my fingers swell. Even so, I had never been able to part with it. I slipped it into my palm. He's been waiting for you, I whispered to myself. Then, I gently placed it beside the letter I had written for Emma. She had already read my words. Perhaps she didn't need anything else from me anymore. Near the bottom of the chest sat a small wooden box decorated with tiny carved flowers. I smiled the moment I saw it. Oh, I almost forgot about you." Inside were little treasures collected over decades. A tiny pair of knitted baby booties, a music box that still played a soft lullaby, a hand-painted storybook, a silver baby spoon engraved with one simple word: family. I had bought those things one piece at a time, not for Emma, for the children I hoped she would one day have. I imagined myself reading bedtime stories, teaching little hands how to bake cookies, watching another generation fill this quiet house with laughter. I gently closed the lid. Maybe someone else will need these someday. There was no bitterness in my voice, only acceptance. I carried the wooden box back into the closet. Love, I had learned, isn't measured by how tightly you hold on. Sometimes love means quietly stepping aside. Maybe Emma needed the freedom to build her new life without worrying about an old woman who no longer fit into her world. If that was true, then I would love her enough to let her go. The thought hurt, but it also brought an unexpected kind of peace. As evening settled outside, golden light poured through the living room window. I made myself a cup of tea and sat in my husband's favorite chair. "I think she'll be all right," I said aloud. "I've taught her everything I could." I smiled toward his photograph. The rest is hers. For the first time in many years, I wasn't planning tomorrow. I wasn't calculating bills. I wasn't searching for another shift to work. I simply sat there, listening to the clock tick across the room. Then, a knock echoed through the house. 3 soft knocks. Not hurried, not angry, just hopeful. I looked toward the front door. Another knock followed. My heart began to beat a little faster. Very few people visited anymore. I slowly placed my teacup on the table. Whoever stood outside waited patiently. I walked down the hallway, one careful step at a time. My hand rested on the doorknob. I closed my eyes for a brief moment. Part of me hoped it was Emma. Another part of me wasn't sure my heart was ready if it really was. I took one slow breath, turned the handle, and opened the door. The door opened. Emma stood on my porch, still wearing her blue graduation gown. Her cap was gone. Her hair had come loose. Her eyes were swollen from crying. The moment she saw me, her lips trembled. "Mom," I couldn't find any words. She stepped forward. "I'm so sorry." Before I could answer, she wrapped her arms around me and held on like she had when she was a little girl frightened by thunderstorms. "I'm so sorry." I slowly placed my arms around her. "It's all right, sweetheart." She shook her head against my shoulder. "No, it isn't." She pulled back, tears streaming down her face. "I asked you to leave the front row." "I know. I looked at your dress instead of your heart." I gently brushed a tear from her cheek. "Emma, no, please, let me say this." I nodded. I thought I was protecting my future. She laughed bitterly through her tears. But I was pushing away the person who gave me one. Her voice cracked. "I read your letter." I looked down. "I never meant for you to read it like that." "I know. I wasn't supposed to know." She reached for my hands, the same hands she had worried others would judge only hours earlier. She turned them over carefully. "I used to think these were just old hands." She looked into my eyes. "Now I know they built my entire life." Neither of us spoke for a long moment. Then, another voice came softly from the porch. "Mrs. Carter?" Daniel stood a few steps away. Behind him were his parents. He removed his jacket and held it awkwardly in his hands. "I hope I'm not intruding." I smiled gently. "Come in." They stepped inside. The living room suddenly felt much smaller. Daniel cleared his throat. "I owe you an apology." "You don't owe me anything." "I do. I never stopped to ask who you were. I only saw what you wore." His father nodded. "So did we." Richard stepped forward. "I've spent my career teaching people that character matters more than appearances." He smiled sadly. Today, I realized I forgot to live by my own advice. Patricia's eyes filled with tears. I judged your life without knowing your story. I'm deeply sorry. I shook my head. We all make mistakes. Emma looked at me. How can you forgive us so easily? I smiled. Because carrying love is already heavy enough. I don't want to carry anger too. She wiped her face again. I don't deserve you. I laughed softly. No child ever has to earn a mother's love. She cried even harder. But every child should learn to treasure it. Daniel looked down. I'll spend the rest of my life making sure she never forgets again. I believed him. Not because of his words, because of the way he looked at Emma. Then I remembered something. Wait here. I walked into my bedroom and opened the cedar chest one last time. The velvet box rested exactly where I'd left it. Beside it was another envelope. After leaving the graduation ceremony, I'd rewritten my letter. The first one had carried years of hidden pain. This one carried hope. I returned to the living room. Emma, she accepted the velvet box with trembling hands. What is it? It belonged to your father. She slowly opened it. Inside rested his old wristwatch. The leather strap had faded with time. The glass held tiny scratches from years of honest work. She gasped. You kept it. I always wanted to give it to you on the day you graduated. She pressed the watch against her heart. I'll never take it for granted. I handed her the second envelope. Read this one later. She smiled through her tears. I will. Just then Daniel reached into his pocket. Would everyone mind one more photograph? Emma looked at him and nodded. Yes, she turned toward me. But this time, she gently took my hand. You're standing in the front. I laughed. I think everyone has already seen enough of me today. No, she smiled. They haven't seen the most important person. Richard opened the front door. The evening sunlight spilled across the porch. Daniel raised his phone. Emma slipped her arm through mine. Closer, Mom. I stood beside my daughter. Not behind her. Not hidden. Not moved aside. Exactly where I had always belonged. The camera clicked, and for the first time that day, my smile reached my eyes. As I looked at that photograph later, I realized something I hope you never forget. The most important seat in life is never reserved by wealth, or reputation, or appearances. It's earned quietly, through sleepless nights, countless sacrifices, and a love that keeps showing up long before anyone stands to applaud. If today's story touched your heart, remember to cherish the people who stood beside you before the world noticed your success. Sometimes, the front row was never about the seat. It was always about the love that carried you there.
Moral of the story: true love is often expressed through quiet sacrifices that no one else sees. The people who stand beside us during our hardest moments deserve our respect long before success arrives. Never measure someone's worth by their appearance or status, because the strongest foundations are built by hearts willing to sacrifice without expecting recognition. Sometimes the greatest gift we can give is gratitude before it's too late. The end.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more real-life stories.